Here we are again. Fifth installment of the Webcam Weekly Wrap-Up. Last week went really well using the Clipchamp software. The microphone actually worked. It's like after all that time, all I had to do was this here and set it up. Those of you that have never watched these shows before, it is the video companion to my Initial Impressions 2.0 blog, which chronicles my daily life, weekly life. Everyone has fun and foolish things that occur to them daily. It's just most people are busy doing other things and don't jot them down like me. I I make sure I put notes in my phone if something happens. I'm like, "Oh, that's going to be great for the blog or the podcast. I got to make sure that's in there." The idea for Initial Impressions was a sister blog to my In My Footsteps travel blog. I started in 2010. On Patreon, I do reviews of that old blog, Initial Impressions, I guess 1.0. And it's doing those that got me into wanting to do this video. I've wanted to do a video podcast forever. It's a lot of effort, as you could tell from the first few episodes where the microphone wasn't as good as I wanted. Now everything's better. Now it's a matter of making it interesting for you to watch. Also, trying to keep this thing under 20 minutes. So get some energy going. Ooh, what kind is it? Oh, it's like spilling. Oh, man. There's an outtake. Can you see it? Oh, it's going to overflow. That's not the way I wanted to start the show. Exploding energy drink? Fine. I'm trying to keep these under 20 minutes. It hasn't happened yet. It probably won't happen this time. But we're going to dive right in with picking up where we left off the end of last week. So last week we had Aurora Borealis, Northern Lights, visible all the way down here, Cape Cod and further south. I went to Bass Hole, aka Gray's Beach and Yarmouth Port on Cape Cod, and there was 200 people there. So I had said at the end of last week's show that night I was recording, my buddy Steve and I were going to go out to the outer Cape, Eastham, Wellfleet, Truro, where it's darker and further north. And if there was some residual northern lights, we might see them. Well, we didn't see any northern lights. So I think I spoiled it at the end of last show because I edited it after that day. But yes, there was no northern lights. Nauset Light was great. You can see the long exposure shot. And then we just kept going further north. Whitecrest Beach in Wellfleet, finally up to Highland Lighthouse in Truro. I love Highland Lighthouse. It's perfect for sunrise, sunset. What ended up happening was we went up there. There were no northern lights. So Steve was kind of like, I'm all set with getting out of the truck. He had driven his truck. So I said, fine, I'll go walk out to Highland Lighthouse, get a couple of long exposure photos, and then be back. So at least we got something out of the trip. So I'm hustling. It's several hundred feet from the parking lot at the Highland House Museum, which is on the same grounds. For those of you that know Cape Cod, it'll be familiar. For those of you that don't, it's like I might as well just have Google Maps pop up and then show you. See the arrow? Yeah. So I'm hustling to get out to the lighthouse, get a few photos using my selfie stick that's over there with my ring light and my phone. And I'm walking pretty fast. I hear nothing. I do hear a couple of coyotes, which had me on my toes. But I got out there. As soon as I turned around to face the lighthouse, there was just some dude there, some big shadow standing between me and the way back to the car. And so I turn and look, and I know it's not Steve. And he just goes, "Hey, what's up?" Just this quieter, creepy voice. And I'm like, oh boy. And then he said, "Think we're going to see the northern lights?" And this Mind you, I'm all by myself out there. I could have yelled, no one would have heard me. And so I'm like, I don't know. I'm here to take pictures of the lighthouse. And he just says, oh, I'm going to go look over at the bluff. So he walks, it's like another 200 feet to the edge of the bluffs. There's fenced off. They had to move the lighthouse years ago because the bluffs are receding. So I'm now, again, facing the lighthouse. I've got long exposure on my camera, on my phone, and I can hear in the distance the crunch because he's walking back along the gravel pathway. And I'm literally standing there, kind of bracing myself, like, be ready if he charges you. And he's walking, and I'm listening. And finally, he just goes, have a good rest of the night. And he keeps walking. And I'm like, yeah, you too. And I watched him get out of sight. And I took a few more pictures and kind of breathed easy. But it was one of those things. I got back to the truck and I'm like, why didn't you tell me there was some weirdo creep stalking behind me? And Steve said he really didn't see anyone. I think he was paying attention to his phone. I wouldn't expect him to be my babysitter. I chose to go out there. An interesting thing, there's a funny joke on The Simpsons where Homer talks about not being able to learn new things. He says every time he learns something new, it pushes something old out of his brain. He says, remember that time that he learned something and he forgot how to drive? And I was thinking this was Sunday. I went to the college library Sunday afternoon. I got what a life I got. It's fun though. It's good for writing. I That's what I do. So I leave me alone. Anyway, I'm walking up to the Cape Cod Community College library and it dawned on me that I was a student there for 2 years, got my associates in communications degree there. And I'm walking up the stairs to the library and I'm thinking, I don't have many memories of the college. Maybe I haven't thought about it in 20 plus years. I would think I maybe if I sat down and really thought about it, memories would pop back up. But it was strange how little of my time at 4Cs I have on hand as memories. Do any of you have anything like that where it's something that was a big part of your life at one point and it's just been pushed to the back of your mind because of other things you've got going on? One one thing that I'm trying to figure out how to start this off without just being totally insulting. As I get older, there are things that I'm starting to see in senior citizens, people in their 70s and 80s, that I'm looking at like, all right, I don't want that. What can I do to prevent it? Mostly I'm talking about things with posture, big rounded shoulders, horrible neck posture, having trouble walking, mobility in your feet, things like that. So, one thing that I see and have seen, and you probably now will think of it, is the fact that a lot of older people, it's usually men, walk around with this mouth wide open, eyes wide open. You can clip that, freeze that scene. They walk around like that. And I don't know if it's they need more oxygen. I don't know if it's something with facial muscle, losing muscle memory in your face. I just know that I don't want to be 75 and walking around Stop and Shop like that and having some young punk like me looking and saying, look at that slack jawed old man. I don't want to look like him. So here I am now heading towards being 47. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want that. What's going to end up happening now is I'll get something way worse. I don't know what it'll be, but because I said that and it's not nice, but I'm not putting up pictures of real people. It's just AI stuff that's funny. But yeah, I started laughing before I even said it because I'm like, how do I even broach this subject without coming off just so mean? But I don't want to look like that. Sorry. Here's one I can see both sides of an argument. So, for some of you probably know there are supermarkets now that charge you money for bags, usually paper bags. And I can understand supermarkets wanting to push recyclable. That's good. I have a couple dozen recyclable bags just because it's easier, less trash, etc. But these companies, I know that Stop and Shop makes billions of dollars a year. It's like you're telling me you can't eat the cost 10 cents per bag, like you have to get more money. I mean, I know you overcharge for most everything and then drop the price back down and be like, look, now it's this. I'm like, yeah, it was super expensive and now it's less expensive. But I can also see the other side where it's like it's 10 cents. You can find a dime in the cushions of your couch. You can't pay for a bag. And the reason I bring that up is because I saw something this week. There was someone that had one of those hand carriages for their groceries, scanning them all in, putting them on the little thingy after the fact at self checkout. And when it came to the end, instead of spending 10 cents on a bag, they had armloads of stuff. This wasn't one or two items. This was seven, eight items they had to grab and hold and walk and drop and get mad that they dropped stuff. Now, I don't know. Maybe they could have used the hand carriage and walked it to their car and then brought that back. All to save 10 cents. I know that's why I'm saying I can see both sides of this because these supermarket companies are super greedy and price gouging. So the hell with them. But it's also buy a couple recyclable bags and do that. Bring the recyclable bags from other supermarkets. Like I'll bring Market Basket ones into Stop and Shop to be like, yeah, I got recyclable, but I paid them for it, not you. Sometimes it pays to check the calendar when you're doing things. I love going to the beach all year round. It's good meditation. Sit, relax, watch the ocean or people watch, and usually listen to podcasts or music or something. This time of year, it's a lot less crowded. We're in late October now, heading to late October. And so I'll go there, and usually Smuggler's Beach down the street here in South Yarmouth. It's big parking lot, not very crowded. It's perfect. So I'm sitting there, I think it was Saturday. I got a podcast going. The parking lot's a quarter full. I'm like, this is nice. The weather's nice. And all of a sudden I look and now the parking lot's half full. And then a few minutes later, the parking lot's three quarters full. And there's people everywhere. And I'm like, what is happening here? Then the parking lot was totally full. And then it dawned on me I should look up if there was an event going on at the beach. There was, it was a bonfire. So I just drove down the street to a less crowded beach. But it was strange to go from nobody being there to then looking up and say, wait a minute, how are all these people here now? So yeah, there's that. Oh, cover this. They won't sponsor me, whoever they are. I'm like afraid it's gonna explode again. What a mess. Never buying that one again. Smart. So this is one of those that it's kind of hits close to home. A, because it's Cape Cod. So my last name's Setterland. It's Swedish. It's easy to mispronounce. It's easy to misspell. It would have been worse when my family first came over from Sweden at Ellis Island. The last name was Zetterland with a Z. And they said, you got to get rid of the Z, use an S. It's my weak Swedish accent. I told you I can't speak Swedish. I can kind of do the accent. Yeah, anyway. So there's an advertisement on my Pandora station because it gives you local ads. The Whole Foods in Hyannis is moving down the street from where they were to this new place called The Landing at Hyannis. It's supposed to be more modern outdoor type shopping center with apartments with more trees and such. So you can tell this woman that reads the ad for Whole Foods on Pandora doesn't know Cape Cod, and I wouldn't expect her to, but the name of the road that Whole Foods is on, it's Iano Road, named for Wampanoag Chief Iano. Iyannough. You can do it with one N if you want. But I would have hoped that they would have given the phonetic pronunciation for this woman because she pronounced it Iana. And it's like when you've heard something right a million times and then you hear it so wrong, it gets you. It's like an earworm. Like I'm used to my last name being misspelled and mispronounced. So when I heard that, now every time it comes on, I either sta- mute, mute my speakers on the computer, like on this, or I take my headphones off if I'm outside. Like I'm not gonna listen to your e and ah. It's still not the worst though that I've heard. There was a guy that mispronounced Hyannis, which is the next town over, Hyannis. Hyannis. It's not hard. He called it heinous, like a heinous act. I don't know where he got that from, but yeah. What's the worst mispronounced word you've heard? Things that you know are wrong. Now, I said there weren't northern lights this week, which was unfortunate, but that doesn't mean there wasn't some fun stuff. Now, we had a comet going by, Tsuchishan, Tsuchinshan. Good job there. Talk about mispronouncing words. I can't say it. I'll just put it up on the screen. That's the name of the comet. So it's passing by. It probably won't be back for hundreds of years, at least thousands. So you got to get out there and see it. It's an hour after sunset. You'll see it. So it's got to get dark. I went the other day, Bass Hole, same place I went to see the Northern Lights. I figured it was fitting. So I did a bit of a flip book, sunset, or no, it was golden hour, sunset, afterglow, then the comet. So I was bundled up. I was prepared for the weather. But again, there was lots of people showed up. Last week there was like 200 people there. There wasn't as many, but there had to be 50, 60, 70 people there. I staked out this dock overlooking the boardwalk. It's a perfect shot. Had my selfie stick, aka tripod, there. And then all you could do is wait. I didn't want to lose my spot. But what was fun was that I got to do a lot of people watching, or in this case, people listening. And you get to hear these people complaining. Like they're mad that the comet isn't visible yet. Like that's something they could control. There was one husband, boyfriend, whatever, was there complaining about it being cold and they're not seeing the comet. And the wife or girlfriend was like, "Can you please just enjoy this moment?" It's fun. But most of the people were just there enjoying themselves. I happened to pick up on the ones that were arguing. That's the point of this podcast, finding that stuff. If the whole story was, I went to see the comet and it was great and everyone was great, you'd be like, okay. But if I say there were people arguing, that's more fun. And I got good pictures. Again, it was the the phone camera could see it. So when I would put it on for night mode, suddenly you'd see that little tail of the comet. I'm like, oh, all right. My eyes don't have to do any work. You just kind of look in the right direction and let the camera do the rest. A little side story to that, when I went out to shoot, I think it was golden hour. It was low tide there, and there was an older golden retriever dog in the water, the shallows in the mud, like looked like he was trying to get fish or something. And there's nobody around. I'm looking to see. It's just like a random loose dog, and he's in there. People were asking me if it was my dog. I said, no, I wish. He was cute, older golden retriever with the white face. Eventually, we saw the dog's owner when he stopped the dog from trying to get into his car covered in mud and water and was toweling him off. That was fun, though. So we're just about done here. It's still not under 20 minutes. You can see. So, finishing off, I got my pumpkin for Halloween. I've got to put a face on it. Last year, I bought a pumpkin around the same time, maybe a week earlier, put the face on it, and it lasted all the way to the first week of June. And this pumpkin last year, it wasn't rotten when I got rid of it. I just was like, oh my God, I've had this thing from October to June. And it also gave me a chance to put together a destruction of the pumpkin video that you can see in the corner there. Destroyed, ruined. This one, I was going to say next week I'll have it with the face. It's going to be around for a while, but I wanted to share that because it's spooky season. That's why I wanted to start off with the story of that creepo guy that was stalking me at Highland Light. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Again, I can't cover the whole blog on this and keep it under 30 minutes. Like Clipchamp says, 30 minutes, it'll shut me down. So go and read the rest of the blog. There's more stuff I didn't have time to get into. And if you want to support me, support my content, check out patreon.com/in my footsteps podcast. Check out the homepage for me, christophersutherland.com. It's got links to all 9 of my books. Subscribe on YouTube. If you're seeing this, you're on YouTube. Just hit the subscribe button. It's all you got to do. You don't have to put on the notify bell or anything, but subscribing, liking videos, sharing my content, that's what keeps me going. I don't know about this one. It's very interesting. It's not 5 Hour Energy. I haven't given up on them sponsoring me, but I'm not going to keep showing their product and then they're like, we don't know you. Wrap up series. And hopefully you've been enjoying these. Hopefully each one, they're all similar but different because I don't have the same stories. So the flow is different. I go just based on everything in the blog kind of goes in order of the week. So I don't have segments like on the actual audio podcast that I do things like that. But I will be back again next week and, share this around. Enjoy the rest of October. I believe that I've got one more that'll go up before Halloween. But by then, I'll have a face on this dang pumpkin. Maybe I'll wear a costume for that one. I have a few things I could try to make it spooky. We'll see. I don't want to promise anything. Maybe if there's an outcry for it, that people really want it, I'll do it. But until then, this has been Webcam Weekly Wrap-Up number 5. I'm Christopher Sutherland. Some of you know that. I hope the rest of you will check out all the rest of my content. But until then, I am out.